I was planning on working on the remodeling project, new house today, but rain moved in last night and it hadn't left. And it's just been a cold, dreary, miserable day today. So I thought, okay, plan B. We'll come out here to the shop and I can get some things done that I've been needing to do. And one of the things I've really been wanting to do is to rehandle my grandfather's old cutting Mattock. And most of you are familiar with a pick Mattock, which is you've got an adze on one side and then a pick on the other. Extremely useful digging tool. But we don't see a cutting Mattock too often anymore. So we've got the adze, but then a cutting edge on the other end, similar to an axe. Okay, and these are exceptionally useful. Hand-hewed logs. An adze is what was used to hew the logs with. Right? And then to have an axe on the other end, very useful, but also extremely useful for digging. So roots. That cutting end's great for roots. Just an all-around useful tool, which an adze is probably right up there with the axe as far as the oldest, most useful tools known to humans. All right, an adze. You want to take a guess where a hoe came from? Came from an adze, breaking up the ground, gardening, all that good stuff. And then this was just combining the axe and the adze. But again, we don't see them too often anymore. And I need to get a handle on this one, and I need to get it cleaned up, sharpened up, and ready for service. So that's what we're going to do today. For the handle, my father picked this up a while back, and this is just going to work perfect for this particular tool. A standard pick Mattock that most of us are familiar with. The handle on it works similar to this planter's hoe. Okay, so we slide the head on from the end, and then the handle's really thick, and then it just bottoms out. That's what keeps it from going anywhere. Okay, a cutting Mattock is hung like an axe. As a matter of fact, this is a double bit axe handle, but this is a very heavy one. Okay, so similar to this double bit axe here, except for this double bit axe is a standard axe handle. It's a lot thinner this way than this one, which is more rounded. Okay, again, that's going to be perfect for this. We just have to fit this to the eye and this head here. The fitting process for this would be exactly the same for an axe. So I just want to start by putting the handle over the eye and the Mattock head and seeing, okay, where's my excess wood? All right, and front to back, okay, so this direction. It's just about a perfect fit. So I don't want to remove any wood on the ends here, but we do need to remove some from the sides, okay? And I could use sandpaper and a block of wood for this. I could use a 4-in-1 tool. I'm going to use a rasp. Okay, so I just want to slowly start taking some wood down. And I notice I said slowly. It's easy to get carried away and take away too much. And this is a really good hickory handle. Well, hickory's a hard wood. It's solid. It can be tough removing material. All right, and once we start removing some, it's easy to keep going. All right. And one thing I really want to make sure of, I want this, the entire surface area of this handle to fit against the metal in here. Okay, so I don't want a bunch of waves in here. I don't want high spots and low spots and all of that stuff with it only contacting in one spot. Well, that's where the fitting process comes in. Okay, but before we can determine exactly where it's hitting, we've just got to get this actually started inside the eye. I also want to make sure I keep this symmetrical. Okay, so we've got the split through here where the wedge is going to go. I don't want to remove too much wood off of one side, having it thin, and then the other side be really thick. I want it even on each side of the split here. Now I've got it to the point where I can actually tap on it a little bit. And I can see exactly where my edges are hitting on the end here. All right, and we're getting pretty close on this one. Now I can see we're catching on this corner right here, so I know I need to take a little more material off there. Okay, I finally got it started. Notice I'm not driving it all the way in. This is just to let me know where my high spots are. Okay, so looking at it from here, see where I can see daylight. Right here on this corner. So I want to mark this and make sure I don't remove any more material from here. And also this corner, I want to leave that alone. Now when I pull this out, I can see where my bruising is. Okay, so we've got a lot of contact right in here in this area. So that lets me know where I need to remove more material. And eventually I want good even contact all the way around. And I'm also paying very particular attention to which way my handle's turned to the head. This is an old forged head. It's not completely symmetrical. And since I'm making this a custom fit, I need to orient it the same way every time for it to fit exactly perfect. And my contact points are getting more visible also. I can see exactly where the head's making contact with the wood now. Again, that just tells me where I need to remove excess material. Something else I'm also noticing, I've got metal from this head marring the wood in one spot going down, so that tells me I've got some kind of burr or imperfection here in the head of this. It's going to be right here. Yep, we've got a burr there. So that's something I want to knock off real quick. The eye of this Mattock's pretty small, and I ended up having to take a lot of material off of this one to get it in there. This is going to be a really good fit. And my shoulders of the axe handle right here, where it's real thick and then it drops down, I had to move that back a little bit just because this was so thick compared to the eye, but we're there now. Okay, and what I was doing is I was actually cutting cross grain with my rasp, going across the grain of the handle. Going cross grain removes more wood quicker than going with the grain, but it leaves you a rougher finish. All right, so what I want to do now, I want to go over this entire surface one last time, open it up just a little bit so I can get my wedge in there, and I want to go with the grain this time just so I get a nice finish on it. And I'm going to use a file for this. I could use sandpaper, whatever I wanted, but I think a file is just going to work perfect on this. Now that I got the handle finished and ready to go, I need to clean up this Mattock head. It's got some use on it, a little age, and it could use a little TLC right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with some Ballistol and some Scotch-Brite. And mainly I want to get inside the eye real good. I mean, I'm going to clean up the whole thing, but this will be the last chance I get to actually go inside the eye and clean it up. Okay, we got it cleaned up pretty good. And I might as well go ahead and sharpen this before I put the handle on it, because that's just going to make sharpening it that much easier. And I don't want this scary sharp. I don't want it even close to that. With an edge, okay, the sharper the angle on any cutting edge. Okay, this would be not sharp. This would be very sharp. The sharper the edge, the sharper the knife or a cutting utensil. Okay, so a razor blade, really narrow, really small angle. All right, something like this, we're not using this for cutting so much as a wedge. Okay, if we had a really sharp angle, that would make it very brittle, subject to breaking. We want this for cutting through roots, or if I were going to use this to hand hew a log, okay, then I would go a little sharper, a little less of an angle. All right, but for digging, I want a little more of an angle. Again, just more of an angle. The longer the edge is going to last, the more durable it's going to be, the less chipping there will be, the more useful the tool will be. Okay, so let me grab my file here, and there's enough of a bevel already here. So the way this right here works, you've got the top that comes around. Then there's a bevel that comes into it. So it's a single bevel. A knife has a bevel on both sides for a cutting edge. This is a single bevel, and all I've got to do is take this one bevel back until we got a fairly flat surface here. Okay, the axe end needs a little bit more work. That's really close. That's some tough steel. I can tell this was forged, and what they did, they actually, for the edge, they actually twisted it when they were forging it. It started out as flat, so that's pretty interesting seeing that. Okay, now finally, I can get this mounted on the axe handle. Excuse me, the Mattock handle. All right, I do believe that's got it. Now just to finish it off with the wedges, take a little piece of scrap just so I'm putting even pressure. Now to cut the end off. And this is where having the right saw comes in. I've seen a lot of people mess this part up. There's two types of saws. There are rip saws, and then there are crosscut saws. Okay, rip saw, the teeth are spaced further apart, and it's made for cutting with the grain, and it cuts really fast. Okay, a crosscut saw, the teeth are closer together, and they're bent out like this. And what that does is when you're cutting across the grain, it doesn't blow out on you at the ends. You get a much smoother cut. So I want to make sure I use a crosscut to cut off my end here, and I just want to leave about 1/8 of an inch. And that's got it. And one thing I usually do is I usually coat the wedges with boiled linseed oil before I put them in. I didn't, but I am going to coat the top of this with boiled linseed oil. Okay, the people that came up with the child-proof lids obviously have never used boiled linseed oil. And the reason for this, well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, it'll soak up into this end grain and it'll expand, and it won't evaporate. A lot of people used to use water, put an axe head in water, it'd swell up and it'd tighten it up, and it would, until the water dried. And then it would actually make it looser than it was to start with. Okay, but also where I took the shoulders back, I want to make sure I protect the wood all in that area also. Do be careful though with boiled linseed oil, like me wiping this off right now, off my hands onto this paper towel. Rag or paper towel soaked with boiled linseed oil and just balled up and left to be, it can actually spontaneously combust. One of the magic little things about boiled linseed oil. So yeah, I'll be sure to take this with me and dispose of it elsewhere other than here in the shop. Now I'm pretty sure I said that the linseed oil was the last thing, but I was mistaken. It's not quite. I've got to put a wedge in the end of it. Okay, so I've got a wedge here. This handle actually didn't come with one, but I had one in my tool cabinet I just dug out. And I want to drive the wedge in at an angle. So I don't want it perfectly crossways with the mallet head. I don't want it this way. I want it at an angle, and what that's going to do is it's going to push both ends out and the sides. Now it's done. And there's the wedge. That turned out pretty good. And I think my grandfather would be happy to know we were taking care of his tools. He took that seriously, taking care of his tools and being organized. And something I was thinking about while I was working on this. Okay, when we're young, we're focused on acquiring things. Well, we start out with nothing, so we've got to acquire things. But then at some point, we need to transition to focusing on maintaining what we have instead of just buying new stuff. And I think that's something a lot of people have a hard time making that transition now, especially in our society today with everything being disposable. Okay, well, I think there's a huge benefit, several benefits, in focusing on maintaining our things. Okay, first of all, if we take care of our stuff and we've got quality stuff, most of it will last for decades. There's no telling how old this is. It's still going, and it's still going to keep going. And my joiner's mallet that I was using, okay, a gentleman gave me this. He was a woodworker. He gave me this and a handsaw, and they had been in his family for who knows how long. But the handsaw was made in the 1870s, and this was very likely could have been made around the same time. All I can tell you is this was made in the traditional manner. They don't make them like this anymore in Hatton for a really long time. And this isn't for just pounding away on stuff, even though as big as this mallet is. It's made for precision work with a chisel. Been taken care of and it's still being used and it's still providing value. Okay, versus today we're focusing on just buying new things constantly. And I think it's about to catch up with a lot of people. Okay, having repairs done on my home. That's expensive now. I mean, really expensive. Well, home's one of those things we have to maintain. So many people have lost the ability to keep their home in good shape, to fix things when they break, simple things, plumbing, little electrical problems, things like that. What happens when you can't afford a handyman? Most people, it seems like they're just letting their houses fall apart. That's what I see, or a lot of that. Okay, so yeah, there's definitely a value in being able to maintain our stuff. Plus, when we understand our tools and how to maintain them, we get better service out of them. Knowing how to sharpen them so that the edge stays sharp longer, or that it's more of a razor type edge so it's better for slicing for certain applications. When you buy a tool in the store, a new store, it's got something ground on the end of it, but I guarantee you it's not a precision edge for exactly what you're doing. Whereas when you know how to sharpen something and put an edge on it, you can put the proper edge for what you're doing, and it makes your tool just more effective. Our vehicles, when we can work on them and maintain them, we know them better. They last longer. I think we appreciate them more. I don't know. Anyway, it's just some things I was thinking about. But This is done anyway, and I'm sure over the next few weeks, months, however long I'm working on the remodel, I'll find an opportunity to use this. I've already found several. That's what made my father think about, hey, we need to rehandle this. It's needed. Okay, I think that covered it for today, and rehandling a Mattock. God bless and have a great day.